Hi, Brave friends. It is Laura from the Brave Girl Project, and I'm jumping on real quick to give some tips to help you if you have a child who is feeling really anxious about the start of the new school year, or if maybe you are a brave mom with a young student that is just getting ready to start kindergarten for the first time. I remember how anxious I was as a parent, so I completely understand. So, first, I know there's a lot of students and kids who really enjoy school. They're excited to go back. They may have like the favorite backpack and things like that. But then there's a lot of students who really are anxious about it and they're worried and they may be thinking about who are they going to sit with on the bus? Where will they find their classroom? Is their teacher going to be nice? What if they don't have anyone to sit next to in the cafeteria? What happens if they miss their bus? What happens if something bad happens during the day to mom and dad and they're at school? So I'm sure there's a lot of you out there who may have a child that has these type of worries. And my heart goes out to you because I know how hard it is. As a school counselor, I always spent the first week or two in kindergarten because I knew all those young little friends coming in. It was a big adjustment for them. So they needed that extra support. So, some quick tips for my friends if you have a kindergartner or a first grader who is going off to school this year. Mom and dad, my favorite book to read, which you may already be reading with your child, is The Kissing Hand. This book is the author is Audrey Penn, and it's just a wonderful story of how the raccoon mom gives her little son a little kiss in his palm, and he does the same to her, and they have that for each other when they're not together. So that is a way to kind of start some of that discussion if you know that your little one, maybe even in preschool, had some difficulties in separating. So, on the first day of school, I want you to smile and be happy and send those messages that your little one, can handle this big change. And then when you get to school, if you do that type of drop off, where you get to walk in, some schools allow that. Some schools I know try to stay away from that. Usually in the first week, however, most schools will let you walk in and walk to the kindergarten classroom, and they kind of fade that out in terms of where they let you enter and how far into the building you're allowed and how long you can stay. But parents, the best thing is a quick, sweet goodbye, letting them know that you'll see them at the end of the day. And I know that a lot of times you might have someone who gets really scared and starts to cry. I want you to look for one of the adults that's in the room, smile, introduce your child to that person, and say, I will see you later, and walk out. It is the hardest thing you're going to do, I know, but it's so important because we want that to be a short and quick goodbye. The longer it drags on, the harder it gets for your child. Out of all the students I've worked with, I've only had one that cried for a very, very long time. And that's out of, 20 years of being in school. But that was a very special case. So your child is not going to continue to cry. And if by chance your child is that one, the school will reach out and they will work with you. The other thing that my son and I did is we kind of prepared things because he was a young person in preschool that I knew was going to have a hard time separating. We did something, I don't have the exact bracelets anymore, but we made bracelets for each other. And it's kind of like the kissing hand where there's the kiss in the palm. But this was something where, and this is just a bracelet that I have that says dream big. But you and your child could make each other bracelets. And so it could be, your child's name, love, mom, and something like that. So at my school, what I would do sometimes for those kiddos who are having a very difficult time and maybe they're very teary eyed, I would pull them at a time in the beginning of the school year and we would make a bracelet for them to have that would represent mom or the parent that they're missing the most. And then we would make a bracelet for that parent and we would put it in an envelope so when they got home from school they could share that with the parent. And as a school counselor I would send an email kind of letting them know how to kind of use that to help them, and it could be a part of their ritual and saying goodbye to each other in the morning. Another thing for my little friends that may be helpful is having like a little piece of home in their pocket. We don't want it to be something big and distracting, but sometimes just a little memento can be very reassuring. So maybe if you have like a favorite necklace or something like that, that can be very helpful. My son and I, what we did is we had this little like phone book. And what we did is we just glued in different pictures of different activities that we had done as a family. It's kind of neat to look back at these pictures. And it included other family members. So it was like mainly our family, but then it was also his dog, his grandmom, his cousin. So that was a way so he could have a little bit of home with him in his pocket. And so I know that in kindergarten and first grade, this is something that he would do periodically. A little later, in second grade, still, what we did is we made a photo, and it was two photos, and it just had a positive affirmation statement on it. So one said, "My mom loves me, and I know I will see her soon." And so we kept that. And I don't know what I've done with it. It used to be in my office at my school. So somewhere, I'm sure it's somewhere still. So that may be something that you can do if you have a young person who's really anxious about this transition, and or you've experienced some of this anxiety with them in the past. So the other thing that we need to do is focus on some of the basics. So we want to make sure that your child's getting enough rest, but they're having a nice healthy breakfast, that you're packing good snacks. Pack more than what you think your child will need, because there's nothing worse than a child who's maybe really emotional, who just needs a little something to kind of make them feel better, and there's nothing for them to eat. So pack more snacks than what you think, to just see what they actually are really going to consume in school. Another thing to do is make sure they're getting lots of time to kind of be with you and to talk with you, and make sure that they always know what they're going to do after school so they feel reassured. Now, sometimes we have kiddos who do a lot of reassurance seeking. They ask questions over and over. Are you sure you're going to be able to pick me up? What happens if the car breaks down? What happens if you get lost? And they just keep cycling through those types of questions. It can be very frustrating as a parent. And so what we want to make sure that we do is we don't want to say, don't worry, or it'll be okay, because for our kiddo who's feeling anxious, that sends the message that you're not hearing me, you don't understand, you don't know what's really going on. I don't feel like I'm really being taken care of, or this isn't being addressed. So we don't want to send the message that don't worry, but we then want to explore though with them instead, how could we solve this problem? How could you handle this problem if the worst thing did happen? Or what could you do to help yourself start to handle this problem? And you get them in problem solving mode, rather than always telling them not to worry or dismissing the worry. But if you have one of these kiddos who is an excessive worrier and they're seeking reassurance and they continually ask, there's a great website that has some great scripts that you can use. I just made a bit.ly link to it, but it's bit.ly Kids Reassurance. I'm going to add it in the comments after I go live so that you can see what that is, and you can check that link out if you need it. If you are a parent with a very anxious kiddo, one of the resources that I love, this is a great book. It's called What to Do When You Worry Too Much. This, I would say, is great for kids, kindergarten, even through sixth grade. But I think it's, the younger grades will definitely get it. As it gets a little bit older, sixth graders may not be as excited to use this book, but they use the analogy you can see on the front cover of a tomato plant. And so what they do is they use the analogy of worry just being like a seed that we plant. And if you guys have had water, tomato plants this summer, and you've been watering them, and you probably have a ton of tomatoes, it's a great analogy to use with your kids. So basically, When we water a tomato plant, it's going to start to grow. Then it's going to start to have little blossoms. One day you go out and you're going to notice that there's a tomato. The next day you go out and there's 3 tomatoes. And then the next day there's like a bushel of tomatoes and you're trying to figure out what to do and you're looking how to make pasta sauce and things like that. So this is where it's the analogy of how watering a plant is just like what we do when we think about our worries. When we spend more time with our worries grow and they double and they get bigger and scarier and a little out of control. And so, what we have to do is figure out strategies to use to help manage the worry. The book also helps kids understand why we worry. Worry does help keep us safe. It helps us make sure that we look both ways when we cross the street. But sometimes worry can be out of control, and there could be an alarm system going off saying, oh my gosh, fight, flight, or free, when really it's just the first day of school. There's not an emergency, there's not the saber-toothed tiger chasing us. So it helps kids learn different strategies, from relaxing, talking out loud the worry, and using logic to try and help solve that. Identifying where they feel the worry in their body. You might have a young person, a lot of my kiddos, where they go to the nurse frequently in the beginning of the year because they have the upset tummy. And the upset tummy, it's not really, because of them being ill, it's because of the anxiety and worry. And when we worry, that shuts off all of the digestive part, and that's why they get that upset tummy. So when they can start to understand that, that can help them have more control and power over the worry. There's also some great strategies in terms of using a set time to just talk about worries. So check that out if you need some sort of resources. There's another great book that I had out, and I don't have it in front of me, but Lynn Lyons has a great book written from the perspective of a student or a young person. And it's how a young girl, Casey, deals with anxiety. And that's a great book for I would say, from 4th grade on up. And it's a lot of different skills that kids can use. And so that may be an easy way for your child to kind of understand and identify and relate to the character, and then be able to use some of the skills to help them. I know the beginning of the school year can be very hard for you, brave parents, but I know that it's all about having a good schedule, sending that positive message, even though you might be kind of falling apart inside and feeling emotional yourself. Try to manage those feelings. Talk about that with friends or your partner. Find maybe something special that you can do once you drop your kiddo off to help you. If there's some time that you need to kind of maybe cry in the car. Sometimes schools have something called, tissues for parents, where you can go to the cafeteria and maybe have a coffee and connect with some other parents. If your school offers that, do that. But don't go by the classroom again to see if your kiddo has stopped crying, because if they do see you, it's also sending them the message that you don't think they can handle school, that you're not confident in their ability to be at school or confident in the people taking care of them at school. So make sure that you go the way that you're supposed to, that you're not going back and hanging in the classroom. Also, I know a lot of times schools allow you to come in and eat lunch with your kiddo. Do not do this in the first 2 weeks of school. You need your child to feel confident and get the routines down, and having you there enables them to develop a crutch and depend on you too much. So make sure that your child is established in the routine of the school before you go to eat with them. If you have a really anxious kiddo, I would say the longer you go without going, maybe make it all the way through September and then start to come in October, but do not do it on a daily basis. Your child really needs to be spending time in the cafeteria with friends, eating, feeding themselves. If you go into school and you have a kindergartner, do not feed your child. Do not have them sit in your lap. That really is not age appropriate, and that does not look good in front of their peers. even if that's something that maybe you do or is part of your culture. Look at the greater culture of the school and how that would be appropriate for your child. Now, of course, I've had students who have eating disorders or feeding issues. So if that is something that your child is dealing with, you know what you need to do for your child. But if you are allowing your child to be an infant, that's not appropriate. Okay, they're at school and they need to be that big kid now. I'm trying to think of anything else because there's so many different things that are kind of popping into my head. If you have a particular question or a scenario or a specific concern that you think your child might face in terms of going back to school or starting school, feel free to message me. We can kind of talk through it and I can give you some strategies to help you, because it really is a great opportunity for them to develop some self-resilience skills and to be on their own. And I know that there are so many kids who deal with anxiety, and it can be very challenging. If you have someone that is older and you know that they are dealing with some anxiety, see if they can go in before school starts, to maybe meet with a favorite teacher from the previous year, maybe meet with a school counselor. Oftentimes at my school, I would have my friends who are very anxious come in, and while I'm setting up my classroom or my office, I'd have them help me or even see if there were other teachers in the building. If that's not available, some other ideas would be to bring a snack like Dunkin' Donuts, little munchkin holes, bring that to the front office and just have your child make a little picture and write your name on it so that the child can then be thanked by the teachers. And that helps build that sense of relationship and connection. That's a great way to kind of get into the school, drop something off without bothering the teacher that's busily trying to set up their room. Another thing is play on the playground or practice walking to school or practice going up to the bus stop. If there's a new neighbor, maybe introducing that person to where the bus stop is and having your child be in charge. So there's lots of different things. If you are, concerned about the anxiety and you are at the point, in that first, day and you cannot get your child out of the car, and you've driven them to school, call into the school and let them know that your child is there and that would there be someone that could help get your child into the school. Do not take your child home because that is setting a bad precedence. It's very difficult. It's so important for your child to be at school and to go consistently and on time. I have helped numerous students deal with anxiety, and I've helped them get into the building safely. And we've transitioned to the point from where they were screaming, kicking, scared, and terrified to the point where they are able to, be part of the school and even do something like the talent show. So there are the resources in the school. There's lovely people at every school that want to help you and help your child be successful. So let those worries ease a little bit. I hope that this has been helpful for you. If there are particular questions or more information you'd like to see in a video, feel free to post that as well in the comments. Give this a like, and if there's another friend that you think would benefit, please feel free to share. So Brave Parent, continue to live life bravely as you help your child do the same, and I will see you later this week. Thanks so much and take care. Bye.